Anne Cummings, Director of the Pudding Lady.
That's me.
Okay, yes, thank goodness. One step at a time. I just wanted to check. Welcome to Hunter Business Insider. We're pleased to have you here.
Thanks, Mark. It's good to be here.
And it's only taken almost 10 years to get to this point.
To be the pudding lady?
Yeah.
Oh, I've been the pudding lady for 10 years.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. You came out of business advising?
I came out of business advising, but I've had a very, very diverse background. And before Pudding Lady, I'd had a sense of deja vu for probably about 3 years, 4 years, thinking that all of the skills that I'd acquired over the previous 15 were setting me up for something, and something new.
And there it was.
And there it was. And there it was virtually in a day. And you just have to...
Buying a business is such a critical point, isn't it? Yeah, and you did that.
Yes.
Took longer than a day.
It didn't take much longer than a day. If you're going to buy a business, all of the rationale has to be right. This was a business with product, and the product is, without question, the best product in Australia. So the quality of the product, the reputation of the product was the primary driver in buying it. And the other reason for buying the business is that there was a legitimate reason for the previous owners to sell, and that was age-related. Mm-hmm. You get to the point where you just can't keep doing what you do into old age. And
how long had it been established? It was late 80s or so, I think.
The business is over 30 years old now.
Right, okay.
And we've had it for 10. And so, it was well and truly into 20 years old. And when the original owners started the business, they were well into their 50s. So, you do the math. So
what do you... Okay, I need to cut to the chase here.
Yeah.
Looking back, 10 years... What do you wish you'd known then that you know now?
I wish I'd known then that there were... We picked a lot of opportunities in this business. We picked all of the things that the business wasn't doing that we could bring to the table. 10 years ago, I wish that I'd actually known how much more potential it had. Maybe we would have done a few more things differently, and we've made some very radical changes over the last 4 or 5 years, particularly the last 4 years, where we've broadened what we actually do dramatically. But seriously, we never saw the opportunities 10 years ago. We saw some of them, but certainly not all of them.
Let's talk about your corporate structure. I find this amusing. Just off camera, we talked about if you have problems with your partner in this business, you talk to his mother, who happens to be your mother.
That's exactly right.
Siblings running a business together. Would you recommend it?
I've never seen a brother-sister relationship work as well as ours does. We've been in business for well over 10 years together, and it's a standing joke that we share a brain. I can anticipate what he will do in a business situation. He can anticipate what I will do in a business situation. It doesn't need to be discussed. We're both on the same wavelength, and that means that working together is good fun.
And the ultimate, I love this, if you misbehave, I'll tell your mother.
He says that about me because I'm older than he is and I pick on him.
That's cool. Well, let's talk about some of those changes, some of the potential you've embraced. What strategies have you looked at?
We had brilliant product to start off with, but we had very, very narrow range. What we looked at with Pudding Lady is that Christmas is only one day of the year, and it's very, very hard to run a successful business where on the 26th of December, your stock effectively has no value for the next 9 months. So 9 months from the 26th of December, people want the product again, but it can be a pretty dry old 9 months. So we went about starting to develop new and innovative products with within the capabilities that the business had, and that was that we make a very, very, very good quality product by hand, using very little mechanisation. But we looked at it and we've got some really funny stories. We decided that we'd go for other flavours. So the flavours that we started to go for were things like mango with macadamia nuts made into a pudding. A pudding that was made with apples and pecan and ginger, and a pudding that had an enormous amount of chocolate in it. And we brought to the market a range of dessert puddings called Fruit Fusions. Now, it hit the market, the packaging was sensational, the product was sensational, but there's a lot of things, particularly in gourmet food, where they run a cycle. They come, they go, they're fashionable at a time, but they're not necessarily a core product like a Christmas pudding is. We took Fruit Fusions to the market and it won national awards. It won Best Retail Product in the gift industry for the year that it hit the market. It won an Innovation Award in the Food Challenge, which is the food industry standard awards. It was just an absolute winner. But we knew that it would have a shelf life, so we expanded that range, or we took an offshoot of that range and called it Choc Fusions, where we took chocolate, and more chocolate.
Yeah. You can't have too much chocolate, frankly.
Yeah, well, you're right. And then we did a range of sauces that would go with these things as well. And we've just followed that innovation path right through. And it's been very successful. It's been very successful. It's also very, very nice to know that in March, April, May and June, we're actually going to see some cash flows for a business that is focused on Christmas. Yeah.
And you're coming to the next peak, which is...
Yes, we actually manufacture our Christmas product for around about 9 months of the year, because the volumes that we do, we certainly can't make to order. The volumes that we do are significantly greater than our capacity, our weekly capacity, and that's even working 2 shifts. So for half the week we work 2 shifts, and it's a very repetitive process. But unlike most things in the food industry, it's not a daily process, it's a weekly repetitive process. So very, very, very predictable. And instead of, we walked into a business where it was, well, it's Monday, what do we make this week? We now work to a production plan. Well, I can tell you...
How far out are you planning?
We're planning 12 months out. We, after every season, we do a complete review. We sit down and we do our production plan by product, by line item, and also by customer, so that we've got a fair sort of an idea. And once we start production, I can tell you what we'll be making the 3rd week of September. I can also tell you what we'll be finishing in that week. Yeah. And it's very regimented. See, come back to the people, different people working within a business. The skill set that Peter, my brother, brings to the business is a totally different skill set to what I bring to the business. And what happens is they mesh beautifully. And Peter's come out of a big corporate background where he's had, a warehouse structure underneath him where he understands. And in our factory, we had no mechanisation, and that included things like wheels to wheel things around. We now work with an off-site warehouse, purely and simply because we outgrew the factory the first year that we were there.
Sorry, just to go down the mechanisation, something as flash as wheels. They've been around for a little while. I'm pleased you've got onto them. Yeah. Is in the production side, is part of your story handmade, or is all of it?
All of our story is handmade. It's all handmade. Yes, there are different qualities in pudding products in the market, but the last thing, what we're looking for is something that your grandmother would have made, or my grandmother would have made.
that I make.
That you make.
Thank you.
Okay. And I'm more than happy to stack our product that's available on the
don't
market
want to go.
up alongside yours and put it out there to the taste test.
We won't even go there. We don't have time. Well, it'll be a very short test. Anyway, you're 45, 46. Let's talk about exit strategies. Do you and your mother talk about how you're going to get rid of Peter and how you can continue?
Pete will keep going probably in the business longer than I do. I'll stay as long as there are challenges. Now, you know, when I said we've made...
So you want to leave it to Peter when it's all dull and boring? Is that what you're telling him?
Yeah, when I'm dull and bored.
No,
right. And I'm not dull and bored yet, so we'll just keep going with it. What I said about making changes over the last 4 or 5 years, we've also changed the company name. Now, Newcastle's Pudding Lady is certainly a very, very strong brand, and we bought the business because of the strong brand. It was also the company name, but we expanded and diversified because of the fact that Christmas is still going to be the 25th of December next year and the year after. And we now have a range of other brands in top quality, everyday merchandise.
And it's not just you saying top quality. You have been on David Jones' gourmet shopping list
for years, for 20 years, and it just keeps getting bigger. Okay. And you walk into their food halls in the Christmas season, and they have shelves there where virtually in the Market Street store where we would expand over 25 feet long, 8 feet high, and the shelves would be 600 or 700
So what's the challenge in that? In dealing with Business Insider's interviewed the founder of Billy Goat Soap. Similar sort of story, great growth, extraordinarily skilled at knowing where the market was, but difficult to manage retailers. Are they as tough to manage as that?
Yes, and we can't be all places at one time. So we actually work through distributors. Right. We work through distributors into the retail market, and in Sydney, Melbourne, and also all the way up the coast. We tend to work directly into retailers on the western side of the island. Mostly because we don't have that much.
Sorry, I just realised I haven't heard it referred to as the island.
Yes.
For a while. So that's cool. But so the distributors are your...
Yes, into the food business. But one of the first things that we recognised 10 years ago was that the product's not only suitable for the food industry, it's a great product for the gift industry as well. So our expansion has been into different market sectors, as well as expanding the product line and expanding the range of products. And when we take our basic products and we combine them into gift packs, like we do Christmas Fair.
Now, just to be specific, your customers, if there are any watching right now, could go online and order, I would think.
They can. We see our web presence as more a showcase. Okay. But not everybody. It is geared that way because not everybody can get to one of our retailers. And the other thing is that with the multiple brands that we now have, with Simply Stirred and Hill and River and the new one that gets released this weekend in Melbourne called Splash, no retailer carries the full range of what we do. So what we've done is change the company name. So the company is now more indicative of what we do, and that's Hunter Heritage Gourmet Foods.
Okay. Thank you.
Because it's very much more where we see ourselves and where we see ourselves into the future. Okay. Now, come back to where you were before about exit strategy. The business is geared so that in the future, divisions of the company can be retained or sold as we want. So it's very very compartmentalised along those lines, and also very proceduralised.
Nice.
Very important.
Yeah. Oh, critical. With regard to, we like to get a tip for our viewers on if you're thinking about doing anything as silly as going into the food industry, and even sillier going direct to or going to retailers.
Yeah.
I'm impressed in your vision and persistence, I should say that. What would your tip be for business developers?
If you're going into the food business, the only way to really compete is at the top end of the market. There's no point in doing an also-ran product and competing against the supermarkets, because that's space that can put you out of business very, very quickly.
And that comes from, I would think, a conscious R&D
Absolutely.
budget. Do you set that?
Yeah, we do, and we also run that research and development perspective a good 12 months out to actually bring a product to market. And it's like I said, we've got a new product coming this week that's been in development since late last year.
It'd be fantastic to try that. Did you bring any in today?
No, Mark, I'll come back again and talk to you more specifically about those things that we do.
Nice. Now there's another interview. That's cool.
But there's all sorts of good stuff.
Yeah,
and
but
the
it's
other
a
thing
12-month plan. That's what
it's well and truly a 12-month plan, and to have a good business model to follow. And that's really, what are your capabilities? What is your capacity? If you don't have capability or capacity, where are you going to get those skills? And that's important.
So
with quality, we believe that it's absolutely essential to have quality assurance. And in the food industry, that doesn't come easy, and nor does it come cheap. But to have a food standard is extremely important. HACCP, which is Hazard Awareness and Critical Control Points, is now the absolute minimum of quality assurance that you'd have in food safety. But 2 years ago, we opted for a higher level, which is a much more internationally accepted level, and it's called SQF 2000. Now, you can opt in at level 1, level 2 or level 3. We opted in at level 3.
Are you exporting?
We are very interested in export. We were exporting. We've pulled back from export because the dollar at, this morning, $1.47. It's very, very hard to get competitive product out there on the market, particularly as most of what you're shipping is not the product, it's the packaging. So for us at this stage of the game, it's not that much, it's not that much of a, it's not a priority, but we're certainly geared to move as soon as the dollar makes it an equitable thing. Having said that, Peter's going to Terra Madre, which is the very, very big international slow food fair. Slow food is all about sustainability and quality merchandise done in a thoughtful way. Now he's going to Terra Madre in Turin later this year, and we are exhibiting there, and we do think that there may be some opportunities that come out of that.
Does Austrade help with that?
Not Austrade, no. I think that there's a lot of government departments who are reconsidering the focus that they actually put into export and the sectors that they encourage to export. 5-6 years ago, they were very, very supportive, and we established quite a good market in export. But the dollar
that may
just
lead well into. Do you have a rant, Anne?
Do I have a rant?
Yes. Is there something that you would like to change like that, if you could? No. It really comes down to the consumer, and the consumer is going to be the consumer, and the consumer is always going to do what the consumer wants. And is always right.
And is no, I won't necessarily say that the consumer is always right, but the consumer is always the consumer.
Indeed. Okay, I'll let you get away.
And
so
that
what's
means
that
that we
mean?
have to meet that.
Yeah.
We have to meet their expectations.
Okay.
Been a lot of changes in the perception of food and gourmet food over the last few years. Thank you, Master Chef, and My Kitchen Rules and all of those things. The expectations of the consumer and the willingness to diversify of the consumer has been very, very much enhanced over those food programs over the last few years, which means that there's a lot more men entering the consumption market directly than it's always been women, or sorry, mostly been women. Now a lot more men foodies, and we've taken that into account. There's a lot more children, young teenagers who are.
But they're not the shoppers, are they? They're not the ones that are going to the store and.
No, but they're the ones who eat when they get home.
Indeed.
And if you're a working mum and you've got a 14-year-old who's interested in cooking, are you going to let them cook?
Give them good food.
Yes.
And again, we're back to the top end of the market and
it's the top end of
delivering
the market.
Above expectation quality.
All the time.
Anne Cummings.
That's me.
Thank you for your time.
Mark, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And we will have you back.
Excellent.
Yeah. With samples.
Anyway. Okay, with samples.